call questions. The Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, my question is for the Premier. You are rapidly catapulting towards a severe disruption in the healthcare system, perhaps as early as 12 days from today. The Canada Health Act does not require that you take any action for 1 full year yet. Given the negotiations, wouldn't the Premier agree that the wisest thing to do now would be to replace a series of meetings which are now being held once or twice a week, working to an early deadline, and instead say to the doctors in the province that you will take the balance of 1986 to try and work out a satisfactory agreement with the doctors of this province?
Premier.
Speaker, to my honourable friend, I realize that the Tory approach is always to delay, procrastinate, take time. Let's take an example. You know, the Niagara Accord that my colleague announced, you guys have been fooling around with for about 8 years and couldn't come to a conclusion. This new minister comes in and wants to do it again. Now, you see, we believe that decisions have to be made. We believe in full consultation. I know that you've been running around the province suggesting there's been no consultation, and I say with great respect, that's patent nonsense. My colleague, the Minister of Health, has had a number of meetings. Our position is very clear, and as long as we think that perhaps we can come to an accommodation, we're prepared to do that. But I tell my honourable friend that we are going to end extra billing. There are ways to do that, and we don't think that your proposal at this moment is very constructive. There's nothing new there, and all we would do under your idea is let it go, let it go, let it go, and we'd pass the cutoff date, and we'd lose at that point $150
Supplementary.
million.
Supplementary.
Or for action? Well, I'm not suggesting that you go by the cutoff date. My request to you is a simple one. If you believe in consultation as you like to say you do, I'll wait till the chief negotiator is finished giving you advice. If you believe in consultation as you say you do, if you put peace in the healthcare system and the patients of this province ahead of a political victory, as you should, my request to you is why don't you protect your $53 million and protect the patients by simply saying to the doctors, instead of a series of rushed meetings this week and next week before May the 7th, why don't we negotiate till the end of 1986, still leaving you enough time to implement the legislation
Premier?
if you so choose.
Mr. Speaker, you say it's going to happen. I gather that there's a rally planned for May the 7th, but that is by no means a cutoff date for any discussions. I don't know where you get that idea. We'll continue to discuss this matter. I appreciate you're taking the Neville Chamberlain approach. I mean, you think there's going to be peace in our time, and you think if we delay this, something magic is going to happen next fall or next spring. I can tell you that there's no evidence to suggest that at all. We are most anxious to resolve this problem, but we're not persuaded that your idea of today is going to be constructive in doing that.
Supplementary, the member for York South.
Mr. Speaker, I'm wondering, just out of curiosity, just what is the Premier's timetable? Because we hear what he says here in the House today in answer to certain questions, and then outside he says something slightly different. I gather that last week you said that it was conceivable that you thought that the discussions could go on or the legislation could be delayed at least until the fall. I'd like to ask the Premier, since you do seem to be in a mood today where you are, by contrast with other days and other weeks, saying how decisive you're going to be, could you tell us precisely what the time frame in your what the time frame in your mind is today? What the time frame today of the government is, and precisely how much longer are patients in this province going to have to shell out $1 million a week in extra bills, which they do not want to pay, which in many cases they can't afford to pay,
Premier.
in which in the view of the majority they should not have to pay.
Premier.
Well, Mr. Speaker, my time frame now is the same as it was last week, the week before, and the week before that. And let me be precise. I'm not in a position to give the honourable member a precise date. I'm not prepared to stay here and say it's May 6th or May 17th or whatever. But I am saying to you that as long as we feel that meaningful negotiations are going on in good faith and there's a possibility of a negotiated settlement here, we will continue to discuss that. We will not discuss it forever. I've told the honourable member before that we would like to see a resolution of the matter this spring. I'd like to see it tomorrow, ideally, but I can't suggest that would happen. But I'd like to see a resolution of this matter this spring, and that is the line towards which we are working. But I'm not in a position to give the honourable member a precise date as I know he would like.
Final supplementary, the Leader of the Opposition.
If that is the case, I ask the Premier, would you be willing, in order to satisfy the legitimate concerns of the patients of Ontario, to simply say to the OMA that if they are prepared now to commit to meaningful and real negotiations with your government through to, say, early fall, to use the words of your chief negotiator, that you would commit to the OMA that you wouldn't bring forward the legislation until, say, early fall?
Premier.
I think my honourable friend insults the OMA by suggesting that they haven't been involved in meaningful discussions so far. Well, I tell you, well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member, you can't spring forward and fall back at the same time. I mean, we're hearing so many strange signals from you people. I mean, your friend to your left, and I'm very sorry about your recent injury. And I hope you're feeling better today. But when you're away, do you know what your colleague was saying in this House and otherwise? I gather you've changed your position a couple times on it over the weekend. That isn't particularly constructive, you know, in these discussions that are meaningful. There's some differences of opinion, and there's serious differences of opinion. We're hoping for a resolution, and if you have any good ideas today or tomorrow, or even if they change over the next couple of days, we're very happy to take them into account.
Take the gag off, Phil. Take the gag
New
off.
question.
Phil. Let Phil speak.
New question, the Leader of the
If we do, we'll
Opposition.
send them to the Attorney General, and maybe he'll share them with the Minister of Health.
New
but
question.
Maybe not.
Not likely.
I have another question for the Premier. I wonder on these negotiations whether the Premier could confirm that he's offered the doctors of this province a substantial portion of the $53 million refund he's so jealously protecting from Ottawa.
Premier.
Mr. Speaker, as you know, we've taken the position we are not discussing in public the details of any discussion with the OMA. And you're the one that said when they wrestled you to the ceiling some 4 years ago that you should never negotiate in this House. And I think that was constructive advice that you gave. Let me say, we are searching for creative proposals and suggestions. And if the doctors have any ideas on how to work with these things, then we are, because we believe there are a number of design flaws in the system now that we've got to work on now and in the long term, and we want to work with the doctors in that regard. But I can tell the honourable member, I am aware of what he's read, that those discussions have not been made public by anyone in this government.
Supplementary.
To try and clarify this bungled negotiation and whether you've given away the $53 million or not, let me refer you to the words of your chief negotiator, Mr. Scott, when he said last Friday, if you've seen the 10-point program, you'll report what it says and you'll recognize that it says nothing about money. That's what your chief negotiator said to the public on Friday. Let me now read you from point 2 of the government proposals to the OMA, put to them a week or so ago. The government, with a substantial proportion of the recoveries from the annual federal holdback of $53 million, proposes establishing a fund for supplementary payments to designated Ontario physicians, with the OMA and the government determining the criteria for payment from this fund. Now, in view of that
Question.
offer, which you made, your chief negotiator made presumably on your behalf to the OMA, are you now prepared to clarify your initial response and acknowledge that you have given away, offered to give away, quote, a substantial proportion of the $53 million holdback?
Mr. Speaker, am I clear? Are you criticizing me for giving away the store? Is that what your position is right now? Let me tell you, Mr. Speaker, I find this absolutely incredible. As I've said in the past, as the minister has said in the past, rewarding excellence is something this government believes in. There are possible ways to do that with respect to the OMA. Specific amounts were not discussed to the best of my knowledge, but if you want to ask the minister, he may be able to add to this. But I can tell you, I find your line of questioning, strange, to say the very least. You're taking such a different position than you used to in the past, and every day you're taking a new position.
Supplementary, the member for York South.
Mr. Speaker, I wonder if the Premier can explain. I mean, I think it's fair to say it's an open secret in terms of what is on the table. I wonder if the Premier can explain why the government was so determined to make a very large financial offer to the OMA when there was no mention in the throne speech at any point in the whole discussion of health care about doctors' incomes being one of the underfunded problems in the healthcare system. And in all the OMA ads that I've heard on commercial radio, I don't recall ever having heard a doctor saying, I'm not getting enough money and that's why I'm mad at the government. If that's the case, why is the government trying to throw money at doctors as a solution to this problem?
Premier.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, I'm not in a position to comment on the specifics that have been discussed. I read the same things you read, and let me just say, to be helpful, they're wildly inaccurate, and there's a lot of speculation goes on daily in this business about what I do, about what you do, and what my friend opposite does, and that's part of the business we're all involved in. But I think what you've seen in these discussions is a minister who's stayed steady on course, has kept constructive discussions, and we're going to find a resolution.
Final supplementary, the Leader of the Opposition.
Speaking, you've referred to your steady-as-she-goes former Minister of Health. If you want to acknowledge that the Attorney General was wrong and that this document, in fact, does reflect your offer to give away a substantial proportion of the $53 million, would you then invite your Minister of Health to stop misleading the public by suggesting that the recovery of the penalties, and I quote from his comments to the Social Development Committee, will build a 300-bed acute care hospital or provide 500 more chronic care beds or pay the cost of running 5 trauma units for the seriously injured? Would you tell your Minister of Health that he has given away his right to put up this case to the public because you offered a substantial proportion,
Premier.
$53 million to the
Premier.
You spent the money.
Mr. Speaker, I say to the honourable member, with great respect to the honourable member, that the facts, the newspaper from which he is reading don't accurately reflect the facts of what has gone on. And if the honourable member has a question, all you have to do is ask the minister. He's sitting here. Why don't you ask him a question if you want to know what's going on? He'd be very happy to do that, let me tell you, Mr. Speaker.
Order. New question, member for York South.
Mr. Speaker, I have a question for the Minister of Labour. The Minister took great pride today in talking about so much positive government activity in the health and safety field. I was in Timmins on Friday, Mr. Speaker, and heard once again of the extraordinary evidence with respect to cancer, with respect to conditions in the gold mines in this province, and with the alarming new evidence of a virtual cancer epidemic in many of our mining communities. I wonder if the minister can explain, given that fact, and given the fact that the government has had a report since 1983 pointing out the following. Workers who have been in the gold mines have a far higher incidence of stomach cancer, and workers in all mining, uranium mining and gold mining, have a far higher incidence of stomach cancer than the general population, and that number is growing and growing virtually daily.
Question.
Can the minister explain why, to date, the Workers' Compensation Board has not recognized a single case of stomach cancer as being connected to working in the mines when the evidence is literally overwhelming that that must be the case?
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member should know that the Workers' Compensation Board has not yet decided that the evidence is overwhelming, that the causal link is there. That is among part of the second phase of the Mueller study. It is among an amount of research that is now being done by the board particularly for the United Steelworkers Union to get numbers going back a very long way. We continue to look at these matters, but as I'm sure the honourable member would wish to acknowledge, the relationship between gold mining and cancers, particularly the kind that the honourable member has raised, has perhaps not been has not been established yet. These matters may carry forward to appeal, and indeed can be referred to the new industrial disease standards panel.
Supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, the evidence with respect to stomach cancer is overwhelming. Since the minister has struck out on that, and there are people today and families today who are not receiving compensation, who should be receiving compensation, let me ask the minister another question. Can the minister explain why, with respect to gold mines, when the government has had studies, not since 1983, but has had studies since the 1960s, again in 1976, again in 1978, again in 1983, and again in 1984, clearly establishing that rates of lung cancer for gold miners specifically are catastrophically higher than expected in Timmins, higher than expected in Kirkland Lake, and those people are still not being compensated, and their families are not being compensated. Why has there not yet been a lung cancer case recognized by the Workers' Compensation Board with respect to gold mining?
Well, I would think that the honourable member would wish to wait the additional couple of months until phase 2 of the Mueller study is completed. I would think that the honourable member would wish to do that, because as the honourable member knows, the 1983 study, which he so glibly points out has established all of this relationship, did nothing of the kind. Indeed, that's what phase 2 of the Mueller study is about. And I would wish and I would hope that the honourable member would be willing to wait the additional period of time until the phase 2 report is out. If there is that kind of relationship, if it is such that workers' compensation benefits should be paid, ought to be paid to any or all of those miners in the gold mines, in the uranium mines, in the mixed ore mines, then in this government's opinion, not only will compensation ought it to be paid, but it will be paid. But let's wait until the studies, which will definitely establish the relationship one way or another, are released.
Mr. Speaker,
Final supplementary.
you could pile the studies that have been sponsored by the
Final
minister
supplementary.
right up to this ceiling, and still that government wouldn't act when it comes to an issue as basic as what's happening to the health and safety of miners in this province.
Final supplementary.
Those are the facts. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the minister, by means of a final question, the minister will be aware that in the report, since he's so acquainted with all the different reports, that in the 1978-79 mortality study done for the Federal Ministry of Health and Welfare, it says that large excess lung cancer mortality among males in Kirkland Lake and Timmins was not expected. It said other components of the air and underground mines which may contribute to the risk of lung cancer include arsenic, diesel fumes, and Thoron and its daughter products. Now, with respect to Thoron and its daughter products, the ministry has known since 1960 with respect to that. With respect to arsenic, I wonder if the minister can explain why, as recently as March of 1986, arsenic was finally designated as a designated substance. The regulations were published. Can the minister explain why mines are exempt from this particular regulation?
Order. Minister.
I'm aware of exactly the point the honourable member makes. Frankly, the decision was made to exempt mines. It is a decision which we are looking at, and as we will with and I understand that. I understand what the point my friend makes, but the relationship, but the tying of the relationship has actually followed the regulation, the designating of that regulation. Now, I tell my friend that not only in the area with arsenic, but in any other area, this government is going to continue on an ongoing basis to review not only those substances which it's in a process of designating, but even reviewing those substances and the exposure levels which are now in place. We're not afraid to go back and take a second look, and if changes are appropriate, they'll be made.
New question. Member for York South.
Speaker, it's hard to know what you can say about a minister who publishes a regulation on
New
March
question.
27th, 86, and then says he's looking at it again.
New question.
I'd like to ask a question to the Minister of Industry and Trade with respect to free trade. I wonder, the minister will know, no doubt from reading the papers, that the Senate has approved the the fast-track talks on bilateral free trade by the overwhelming vote of 10 to 10. I'd like to ask the minister, can he give us the categorical assurance of his government that in the event that the Auto Pact, the treaty between Canada and the United States with respect to automobiles, is in any way a subject of those negotiations, that Ontario will urge the federal government to withdraw from the talks?
Minister?
I can say, Mr. Speaker, that we have always made it very strong that we do not believe that the Auto Pact should be one of the things that was placed on the table.
Supplementary?
Well, that's not quite what I asked, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask him specifically, since, again, he knows what the position is. The position now of the federal government, stated very clearly by Mr. Mulroney, and the position of the United States government is that there are no preconditions. There are no preconditions. Now, given that harsh fact, what now is the position and what now is the response of the government of Ontario? The government of Canada has said that everything is up for sale. Everything is up on the table. What is your position now that is known with respect to the Auto Pact? What is your position?
Mr. Speaker, our position is the same as it has been in the past, and that is that the Auto Pact should not be put on the table.
Supplementary, the member for Sarnia.
To the minister, could the minister perhaps indicate whether he has conveyed his concerns about the Auto Pact to our federal counterparts? And if so, would he indicate what he has said to the Prime Minister of this country with respect to that concern, and any other concerns covering other industries that you may have some suspicion could be affected negatively by free trade? Would you let us in on what you have discussed with the federal government at this time?
Mr. Speaker, not only that matter concerning the auto trade, but all of the other issues that we are worried about have been expressed to the federal government.
Final supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, let me try again. What if the Auto Pact is the subject of negotiations? What if? What are you going to do then?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, that is hypothetical, and we would have to deal with it when it happens.
New question? New question, the member for Sarnia.
I'm trying. I just want to wait till it dies down, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Industry and Trade as well, Industry, Trade and Technology. Last Thursday in the House, Mr. Speaker, the minister stated with reference to the same issue, free trade, and I quote, "My position is the same as the Premier's." I'm still trying to find out what that position is, but it's the same as the Premier's. Now, if this is indeed the case, could the minister indicate how, in the recent speech that he delivered to the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, I believe it was, you were an enthusiastic supporter of free trade. You indicated many of the opportunities that would present itself to this province if there were freer trade between ourselves and our neighbors to the south, while at the self-same time your Premier has again and again mentioned that up to 300,000 jobs in this province could be lost if we had a free trade agreement. Which position is it, sir, that your government is taking?
Mr. Speaker, well, I think if the member would have checked the speech closely, first of all, he mentioned to me that the speech that I gave in Washington, I haven't been in Washington for approximately 10 years. And you did say that when I spoke to the Chamber of Commerce, I was for increased trade with the states, and we are all in agreement that we want increased trade with the states.
I have your speech, sir. It was to the Chamber of Commerce. I was incorrect, and I apologize for stating that the speech was given in Washington. For the record, we're speaking of the comments that I made last Thursday, and the minister is correct that I did indicate that he gave the speech in Washington. However, I do have the speech here. It was not delivered in Washington. We've got that cleared up.
And you do have a supplementary?
Yes. The minister quotes in his speech, "I believe that two-way trade is vital in our strategies to reshape, rebuild, and rejuvenate our industries. Together as economic partners, reference must be to the United States, we can get back into fighting form. Now, will you once and for all clarify where you stand and where your Premier stands? Because I don't frankly know where you stand.
How do you interpret that as free trade?
Order. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, just as I am and just as you were for increased trade with the states, all of us want increased trade with that country.
Order. New question. Supplementary. The member for Port Arthur.
Supplementary.
More dirty work. No, you're trying to sell out the country, eh?
Order. The member for Port Arthur's being very reasonable and waiting to ask the supplementary. The member for Port Arthur.
Would the minister clearly outline for the House the items that his government has told the federal government cannot be on the negotiating table?
Mr. Speaker, I believe it's a matter of public record just where we stand on this subject of free trade and the topics that we feel should not be on the table.
New question. The member for Sault Ste. Marie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the Premier relating to the massive downsizing and permanent layoffs announced by Algoma Steel last week that could result in 25% unemployment rate in the Sioux within a matter of a year. Is the Premier going to take action to maintain the steel jobs we now have in the Sioux and to stimulate new economic activity in that area? Or are you going to adopt the federal conservative approach of providing retraining and relocation so that workers from Northern Ontario can move to Southern Ontario? What is the government's policy? Is it moving jobs to the people or moving people to the jobs?
Premier.
Well, Mr. Speaker, to the honourable member, we are very concerned about the economic vitality of Northern Ontario, and as the honourable member knows, this is not the only problem there. It's not the only problem that's been faced over some period of time. The government is spending a great deal of time canvassing its options in that regard, and as you say, our responsibility is to widen the economic base. It's something we're very concerned about. Frankly, doing an inventory of every single option that we have available to us to bring a coordinated policy to that. I understand in the emergency debate that will be, someone is proposing this afternoon, perhaps the honourable member is proposing this afternoon, there will be discussion of this issue, and I know the ministers are very well prepared to discuss some of those options and initiatives with you, and of course we'll welcome your views as well.
Supplementary, the member for Port Arthur.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If the Premier realizes, as he indicated in his answer to my colleague from Sault Ste. Marie, that Algoma Steel's layoffs are in fact part of a concerted attack on the economic capability of Northern Ontario, particularly in the manufacturing sector, can you tell us why CP's investments, withdrawal of commitment in capital in Algoma Steel and in Great Lakes Forest Products in Thunder Bay, they are allowed to get away with that, and what specific steps will you take? Will you bring in legislation that would impose a one-year moratorium on the plant closure at Thunder Bay, as was requested by the union, and as you were so ready to bring in legislation last week to force workers back to work?
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure I would see this matter in the same, may I use the word conspiratorial terms that my honourable colleague opposite would see it in. These are two extremely difficult situations at the moment. As you know, the ministries have been involved from the beginning. The wafer board plant in your own hometown is a serious one. As you know, the negotiations broke off this weekend. We did have a labor negotiator, I believe Mr. Joyce was there. We stand ready and willing to provide any other assistance we can by way of an arbitrator or whatever. You will be aware that there are some fundamental difference of opinion between the union and management over financial matters, and perhaps be constructive to have an objective view of the situation. I know that the ministry is, the management is pushing for certain concessions to try to make that particular operation competitive. In a way, it's a labor management situation at the present time, but at the same time, it speaks to some generally competitive problems throughout Northern Ontario. These matters are of enormous concern to this administration, because as you say, and as your colleague has said, and your many colleagues who have brought this to our attention before, this is not an isolated thing. And there are major changes going on in the mining business, and the forestry industry, and the steel business, and others. It's part of our initiatives with respect to the federal government for changes in respect to steel imports in this country and many things. I just assure the honourable member.
Order.
Well, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Supplementary. The member for Brantford.
The Premier is, I'm sure, aware that layoffs across the province in the early months of this year are up 65% over the same period last year. But in Sault Ste. Marie, they are up 450%. I suppose we take some comfort in that you're looking at options, but could the Premier tell the House what are your immediate plans to help in the economic adjustment and improvement of that community?
The honourable member is absolutely right in his figures. And he'll be also aware at the same time that I think in the last year 173,000 new jobs, net new jobs, have been created in the province at the same time. Now that's no consolation to the people in Sault Ste. Marie. I'm aware of that. But it speaks to some of the problems we were talking about earlier. I have asked the ministers and the ministries to canvass every single option that we have with respect to Sault Ste. Marie. I can't tell you there's one dramatic thing that's going to put a Toyota plant into Sault Ste. Marie, although I'd like to see it if we could do it, or we're going to work with Algoma as we have been. I think the ministers are going this week. There's a committee of deputy ministers going next week. I've asked each minister to look at how they can contribute, however so small a contribution, to try to broaden the economic base of Sault Ste. Marie. It is a very worrisome situation to which I say to the honourable member in honest all candor, I don't have an easy, instant solution.
New question. The member for Simcoe East. Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Tourism and Recreation. Can the Minister confirm that the latest tourism TV commercial for his ministry was filmed indoors with a man-made artificial lake, an artificial waterfall, and an artificial general store?
Minister?
Being smelled by the minister. Deceitful. Yeah. Looks like it. They couldn't find a lake in October. Answer the question. Lake around Lindsay, John? Answer the question.
Supplementary.
You guys know any answers over there? Do you know what's going on at home? Does David run your ministry?
Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that artificial answer. Supplementary, Mr. Speaker, in view of the fact that there are over 200,000 natural lakes in Ontario and perhaps 1,000 or more functioning general stores that are real, can the minister explain why he would allow such a decision and why most of the footage was shot on a holiday Easter weekend at probably double time and a half? Now, if this is true, Mr. Minister, it's not only Ontario that's incredible, as your new TV ad says. I suggest it's you who's incredible, wasting taxpayers' money.
Minister. No real. You? What is it?
Smoke and mirrors.
Artificial.
Oh, smoke and mirrors.
I could show you lots of bags like
The member for Nipissing on what point?
A very quick point of technicality, Mr. Speaker. The microphone didn't appear to be working, and maybe I don't know why council would be prejudging the non-answer as right as they might be.
Order. I noted it wasn't working, and I hope it's been recorded somehow.
It's an artificial microphone. That's
New question, the member for Welland Thorold.
My question is to the Premier. Mr. Premier, you were quoted by the Canadian press and other media last Saturday as saying that your provincial government, quote, does not have control over gasoline prices. They're a federal matter, end of quote. I'm amazed how you could have said that and meant it seriously. I wonder if you've forgotten that the House passed legislation in July 1975 to control the price of gasoline, both wholesale and retail, and in debate dealt with the issue of constitutional authority, and all parties, including your party, agreed that the province could exercise such power. I wonder if you'll tell us now where you got your current legal interpretation that you cannot exercise such power to control the price of gasoline.
I'm going by memory because my mind isn't as swift now as it was 10 years ago. But wasn't that with respect to the ISVISTA report on the freeze on prices coming down the pipe for a 90-day period just prior to an election? Am I right? Is that?
That's it.
That's it. I think that was it. And you'll recall that we were heading up to an election or something like that, and the former government wanted to make a statement about the whole matter. Now, look, Mr. Speaker, may I refer this question to my honourable friend, the minister responsible? He may be able to add this back.
Minister of Consumer and Commercial Relations.
I am delighted to respond. The member may know that legislation is no longer on the books. There's no question that we, as a body, if we want to institute such legislation, we could. But I should tell him that in provinces like Nova Scotia, where they do have regulated gas prices, they're paying more than we're paying in Ontario.
Supplementary, the member for Welland Thorne.
So now the minister is admitting that the Premier has made a misstatement of fact when he said the province doesn't have the power to control retail prices.
Way to go.
I wonder if the
supplementary.
I wonder if the minister would admit the absolute futility and ineffectiveness of everything that he and his government have done about gas prices to date. You recall last week that you stated publicly that the oil companies should bring gas prices across the rest of Ontario down to the 37 cents that existed at that time in Toronto, and the oil companies, instead of doing that, 2 days later, took the 37-cent price up to the rest of the province, over 41 or 42 cents per liter. Boy, that's real performance on your part. If you have any sincerity about bringing gas prices down, I have a supplementary, and protecting the consumer, why don't you stop posturing, quit passing the buck, enact the implementing legislation, which you now say you have the power to do, and use it to bring the price of gasoline down.
Order. We'll get to the throne speech sometime. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member, as usual, confuses some of the issues. I am saying that right now there is no legislation in Ontario that can control the price of gasoline. We could bring it in if there was a great cost to do it. I should also tell the member that if you'll recall, about a month ago, I predicted that the price of fuel in Ontario would be at 37 cents or 38 cents by the end of April, beginning of May.
Right on.
This morning, if you drove anywhere in Toronto, you'll see prices at 36.9. Now, I can say to you, I am very concerned about the price of fuel. I have been working with the oil companies, and we are continuing to monitor it.
Supplementary, the member for Ottawa West.
In view of the fact that the minister is still hanging on to his empty and vague promise of some weeks ago that by tonight or tomorrow the gas prices would be 36 cents a litre, how can he explain that in Ottawa, Carleton today we're paying 48 cents a litre, and what are you going to do about it?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the price of fuel is declining, and I'm not happy with the state of the price of fuel. I am working with the oil companies. The Premier has made a statement that I agree with completely. I think the statement of Shell Oil is totally unacceptable, that they will not pass along savings. But you have to understand that we are working on that, and the price of fuel is coming down. I'm not happy with where it is, but it is not. It's coming down in Ottawa as well.
Order. Order. Thank you. The member for Cornwall, new question.
Merci, M. le Président. J'ai une question pour le ministre responsable des Affaires francophones. Je voulais savoir qu'est-ce que le ministre fait dans le moment pour garantir à la majorité francophone de Kapuskasing leurs droits.
Monsieur le Président, je veux rassurer le membre de Cornwall que je suis très au courant de la situation à Kapuskasing. J'ai écrit la semaine dernière au maire et aux membres du Conseil et je dois vous assurer que mercredi prochain, lors de leur réunion, ils feront une décision du Conseil et non pas du ministre des Affaires, responsable des Affaires francophones.
Supplementary?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a supplementary question for the Minister responsible for Francophone Affairs and also a Minister responsible for Municipal Affairs. You know, with the present confusion in Kapuskasing concerning the ability of a municipal council to designate a community officially bilingual, what's the Minister doing to clarify this matter?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, did you say committee or community? Community? Well, at the present time, the Municipal Act gives councils or municipalities the right to be serviced in French or in English. So that's very clear and simple. Section 108 of the Municipal Act. And municipalities, I can tell you that municipalities in this province, some 31 of them have declared themselves officially bilingual. And Kapuskasing can do the very same thing.
New question?
I have a question today for the Minister of Agriculture and Food. The Minister is well aware of the hard times that agriculture is suffering. Symptomatic of that would be, as a good example, would be the depression-era prices we're receiving for wheat right now. But those commodities in Ontario that are surviving, staying barely afloat, are those that are supply managed. But now we have free trade talks beginning, and as the Minister knows, there's nothing on the table. Everything's on the table. There's no preconditions. I'm just wondering if the Minister is prepared to allow supply-managed commodities to go the way of everything else that seems to be going with these fast-track talks.
Minister?
This ministry has a committee established working in conjunction with a national body to make a study of each sector of our agricultural industry which could be impacted detrimentally by free trade. So we are going to know exactly where the benefits and the costs are going to be if we enter into free trade discussions, and if it appears that the costs are going to exceed the benefits, such as losing supply management, then we'll be there through our Premier at the bargaining table telling Mr. Mulrooney what impact this is going to have not only on Ontario but throughout this whole country. We'll be there, and we'll make sure that we protect the agricultural industry.
Well,
supplementary, the member for Commissioner.
I'm very glad to know that Jack will be there. I'm not sure the invitation's been extended. Let's hope it is.
Supplementary.
But the Minister's well aware that especially these supply-managed commodities in Ontario are the very ones that the U.S. has capacity to replace all our production. It's not a matter of being hurt or what the cost is. We're talking about total replacement of that production in Ontario. What are we doing to prevent that sort of replacement to this industry in Ontario?
Minister, here.
Well, I guess the simple answer would be we are not going to lose our supply management programs because of free trade negotiations. We're going to be there to protect a program that has prevented the kind of chaos that they have in the United States. Having to sell 1 million dairy cattle and then buy back 400 million pounds of beef, what kind of a chaotic situation is that in the States? We don't want that here in Ontario, and we're not going to get it. We're going to be there, and we're going to fight for the agricultural industry. But it's not only this minister. It's not only this minister that's working on it, but if you also notice various consultants, you've probably read in the paper where William Doyle, a former Deputy Minister of Agriculture in this province, said that if we do lose supply management in chicken, it will be the end of the chicken industry in this province. We're not going to let that happen.
Final supplementary, the member for Durham York.
Final supplementary.
We, along with the farmers in Gray, know the minister will be there talking. They listened to you for 2 hours not too long ago, but from what I've heard, they still really don't know what your party's views are exactly on free trade. Could you clarify just where you stand today?
Minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm most interested in having that comment come from that critic. You know, there was an article in the Windsor Star here just the other day, and it was talking about Mr. Stevenson, and he said the article said with more than 10 months of wound licking under his belt, Stevenson clearly had the gloves on and wanted to score points for his languishing party. Instead, he came across as punch-drunk, bitter, and a poor alternative to Riddle and his still popular Liberal colleague. Now,
Order. I've listened very carefully. Is the minister going to answer the question or not? Minister?
I can simply repeat what I've already said, that this ministry is responsible for knowing what impact free trade will have on each and every sector of the agricultural industry. When this committee has completed its report, we'll be conveying that to the Premier, who will be standing up for agriculture when free trade negotiations begin, and we are not going to stand by and see free trade take away those programs which have meant so much to our farmers in this province. We are going to be defending our agricultural industry and the supply management programs and all the other good programs that we have for agriculture. We're not going to trade them away.
Supplementary? No questions, sir.
New question for the Minister of Agriculture. We'll see what he has to say here. That's right. 3.5 months ago, the federal government gave its approval to $1.5 million to the Southern Ontario Tomato Co-op to establish a multi-product processing business, including tomato paste. Has the minister finally ended his indecision in their $1 million request to the Ontario government?
Minister?
Let me tell my honourable friend, it is not an indecision on the part of this minister, but we want to know whether the banks are going to stand behind them for the remaining $2 million that they have to put in order to make this plant fly.
Taxpayers.
So I can tell you that the federal minister and I have discussed this matter a number of times. We are waiting for the federal minister to make a decision as to whether he has. Now wait, just listen. It is not. We are waiting for the federal minister to make a decision whether he has $1.5 million to sink into that program. When he tells us that he's got the $1.5 million, then I'll make my move. But he is also wondering whether the banks are going to support Topaz for the other $2 million that they've got to have to make the plant go.
Order. Supplementary.
Press releases and read some of the press releases of the member from Haldeman, Norfolk, just a few months ago. It's very clear that the federal minister has made a decision. The banks are ready to go, and you have been dragging your feet. In fact, part of your own ministry has been pressing them to get their processing license, and they can't because you haven't made a decision. Now, we're coming up to planting season.
Order. Would you just take your seat for a moment, please? I should maybe remind the members that under Standing Order 19A, all members should rise and address the chair rather than pointing back and forth to each other. Would you mind pointing to me? The supplementary, the member for Durham York.
I would be glad to direct the comments to you, Mr. Speaker, or anybody else in this House if I thought that anyone could get through to the minister. But
Do I take that you do not have a supplementary then?
I will place my supplementary, yes. It is planting season. The shareholders, the bank, and everybody else is waiting on your decision. Why have you put this group into such a time crisis by delaying your own decision?
Minister?
The member has a pipeline through to my federal counterpart, then I would suggest that as soon as he gets out of this question period, he jump on the line, he phone through to his federal counterpart, tell his federal counterpart to let me know, if he is indeed got the $1.5 million to put into the program. When he comes
Order. I'm sorry, some members are wasting time for other members. New question, the member for Algoma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question of the Minister of Northern Development and Mines. In view of the great wealth that the Algoma Steel Corporation has taken out of the Wawa area over many years, the high productivity of the workers in the Algoma Ore Division mine, the fact that there are 25 years of iron ore reserves left in the Wawa area, and the responsibility of the Algoma Steel Corporation towards that community, does the Minister agree that Algoma must make a clear commitment to the community of Wawa and must not cut production at Algoma Ore Division any further until the company has closed out its operations at the Tilden mine in Michigan?
Here. Right on.
Mr. Speaker, in answer to my... No. About the Wawa situation, I met with the president of the Algoma Steel Corporation, and on the Algoma problem, we're meeting with him and its people again next week, and the ACR, because we'll have to look at their costs, and I'm going to do my best to try to do it. As a government, we'll do our best with the railway and with the company to try to keep that mine going at its present state. And then I'll be meeting with people in Wawa this week. I'll stop there on Wednesday, and the union, and I'll meet with the mayor, and my ministry will put one of our economists there right away to work with the area and to try to find a way to that solution that will to keep. Never mind. Pas ton temps, on n'a pas besoin. Pour essayer d'améliorer la situation à Wawa, cette semaine, on va envoyer un de nos employés, un économiste, puis pour travailler avec l'Union et la compagnie pour tenir cette mine-là aller jusqu'à temps qu'on ait une solution. En même temps, at the same time, we're working, and we know that in the area there's other mining going around, but there are mining companies which are very close to a production decision, and we're working with them too. And maybe we're going to go beyond that. I'm going to look to my own program of mining, maybe to accelerate some decision in this area to take this. Order. Supplementary.
By way of supplementary, Mr. Speaker, since the minister has said that he will be meeting with the union and the company in Wawa, is he aware that over the last few years, Algoma has sourced more and more of its iron ore from the Tilden mine in Michigan, to the point that Algoma ore is now only providing about 40% of the ore used at the Algoma Steel Corporation, whereas historically it was at a level of 60%. And is he aware that the company has, or at least the union anticipates the company may intend to cut the capacity at Algoma Ore Division Sinter plant to 900,000 tons from the current capacity of 1.8 million tons? And if he's aware of that, what does he intend to say to the company with regard to their Tilden, Michigan operation?
Minister. Mr. Speaker, on this number of tons, I'm not aware if they're going to go down to 900,000 tons from 1.8. That I'll have to meet with them again this week and to
to take into account what you're telling me, and then I'll make a decision after with the Premier of this province.
New question? New question, the member for Beaches Woodbine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the Solicitor General. Mr. Minister, last Thursday you told the House that the Ontario Humane Society had not yet made an application to your ministry for its annual grant for 1986-87. But Mr. Minister, are you not aware that the Society has been requesting adequate funding from the provincial government for several years to enable it to carry out its important responsibilities for enforcing the criminal code sections relating to cruelty to farm animals and other animals, and that it had laid its needs before your deputy minister in February of this year? And are you not aware that as of April 1st, the Society has been forced to withdraw the services of all its agents across the province,
please,
and the two inspectors, because of the present level of funding at $125,000 a year, which is inadequate to enable them to continue to operate that service?
Minister?
I believe the question is, am I aware that they have made an indication of the desire of more funds? Certainly aware that they have made the desire for more funds based on that Pricewaterhouse report of some years ago, but it is still factual that they have not yet filled in their application form for the annual grant that has been there and has been communicated to them, is available for them as soon as they request it.
Supplementary?
Mr. Minister, I think when an organization has an annual grant under the budget, they don't usually make an application. And are you aware that the Society produced a special edition of its Animal Action Bulletin this year, which has the word crisis in 2-inch red letters on the top, and which I showed to the Minister.
Are you aware, Mr.
Surely
Minister,
indicated to him the need for further funding.
Are you aware, Mr. Minister?
Of seeing the bulletin from across the hall, it's never been sent to my office.
New question?
The Minister of Health, I'll address my question to the Premier. As the Premier, I believe, is well aware, the Sarnia community has in fact made a request to the Minister of Health for the funding of a chronic care hospital expansion at St. Joseph's Hospital. They have in fact raised on a voluntary effort in the community some $4 million and have been patiently awaiting word from your government as to when the funding will come forward for that particular facility. Could you give us some indication of when the Sarnia request will be funded and when other requests, quite frankly, that are right across this province will be funded as well, where there is a need for improvements in hospital care?
Premier. Well, Mr. Speaker, to the Honourable Member, I am sorry I cannot assist the Honourable Member on his specific request with Sarnia. I do not know, and I can inquire as to the Minister if he has any news for you. But your point's well taken, that there are a number of requests right across the province. It's nothing new to you. You will be aware that there's enormous capital pressures on the system, and we're trying to sort this out in as fair-minded a way as we can. There's an announcement in the throne speech that we take a long-term view of the capital funding projects, so we wouldn't hold everybody in suspense, and we would try to work with the communities so they would know with some certainty where they fit into the program. Again, I say to you, it's no surprise to you of the pressure that's coming for capital funding. I don't know how long this St. Mary's Hospital in St. Joseph's in Sarnia has been on the list, I assume probably for years, like many other ones around here. So it comes, I don't know what answers you gave them when you were Minister of the Crown, but you can tell them for us that we will look at it in the context of the needs right across the province and try to do that in as fair-minded a way as we possibly can.
Supplementary?
As the Premier is aware, there were many millions of dollars expended in the hospital expansions in his own area of London, and right across this province there have been many capital expansions. All I'm asking the Premier is to give some indication of when the next round of improvements and hospital expansions is going to take place, recognizing that there has been very little comment from the Minister of Health, either with respect to needed hospital facilities that have to be improved upon in this province, nor has there been any comment from the Minister with respect to other matters such as the negotiating problem on the extra billing ban. So we're looking to you, sir, for some leadership on that side to help us with this problem.
Premier, great respect to you and your colleague. You really are strange. He was sitting in the House. Ask him any question you want to know. Well, he's here most days, a lot more than most of your members who are in semi-retirement. Let me tell you, he's here doing his duties. And if you want to know, ask him. There's no secrets here.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of privilege, if I might, I think that's an extremely unfair accusation to make on the part of the Premier. He knows full well there's a lineup of questions. I waited patiently to address my question to the Minister of Health, and in his absence, he chose to leave, not I.
Order.
I'm here.
Order. Order.
Remember, if his party doesn't take him seriously, you have to put him on the top of the list.
Order. Order. It's not a point of order. Time for oral questions has expired.